Imagine a celestial body of immense, incalculable density. It does not reach out to pull the planets toward it. It exerts no desperate effort. It simply exists in a state of absolute, unapologetic mass. And because of its profound stillness, everything around it is naturally drawn into its orbit. In the realm of profound, soul-shattering connections, we are conditioned to believe that love requires aggressive motion. We are taught to build bridges. We are instructed to cross the distance, to send the message, to leave the door ajar, to signal relentlessly that we are still available to be chosen. But what happens when a woman stops building bridges? What happens when she simply becomes the ground? She does not lean forward into the anxiety of the future. She does not lean backward into the melancholia of the past. She anchors entirely into the profound architecture of her own present moment. This is the archetype of the Sigma woman. She embodies an emotional independence that is so absolute it disrupts the standard relational field. And to the divine masculine, this energy is not merely attractive. It is an inescapable psychological gravity. Let us explore the hidden mechanics of this stillness. To understand why the divine masculine is irresistibly pulled toward this specific frequency, we must look beyond the surface of romance. We must look through the dual lenses of depth psychology and quantum entanglement. When two souls share a profound, mirrored blueprint, they do not communicate primarily through language. Words are clumsy. Words are secondary. They communicate through the nervous system. They communicate through the invisible geometry of the quantum field. You have likely felt this deep within your own body. You can sense a shift in their energy from 1,000 miles away. You feel their withdrawal before they even take a single physical step back. This is because your nervous systems are entangled in a continuous, silent dialogue that never sleeps. When the anxious heart operates from a place of seeking validation, a very specific energetic signature is created. You might think you are simply loving them. You might think you are just showing how much you care. But if beneath that care there is a desperate need for them to choose you, the energetic field between you becomes flooded with a frequency of lack. The avoidant soul feels this on a cellular level. Their nervous system is highly attuned to pressure and expectation. They register your pursuit not as love, but as a demand. It feels like a psychic tax. It is an unconscious extraction of their life force. They feel hunted even if your words are incredibly sweet and your intentions are pure. Because they feel hunted, they predictably retreat. They pull away to preserve their autonomy. They build walls to protect their energetic reserves. This is not a conscious, malicious choice. It is a biological and spiritual survival mechanism. The more you lean forward into their space, the more their nervous system commands them to step back. You become caught in an exhausting loop of pursuit and evasion. But the Sigma woman alters the fundamental physics of this connection. She operates on an entirely different spiritual paradigm. She embodies total self-containment. She is a closed circuit of emotional power. She does not need the outside world to tell her who she is. She does not require a partner to regulate her internal state. Her peace is not contingent on his presence. Her worth is not tied to his validation. She is the ocean, complete within herself, regardless of the ships that sail upon her surface. When the divine masculine encounters this level of self-containment, his nervous system is suddenly and completely disarmed. He is entirely unprepared for this profound stillness. He is accustomed to women who lean forward. He expects the chase. He expects the subtle emotional demands. He braces himself for the familiar psychic tax. But when he meets the Sigma woman, there is nothing to push against. There is no emotional demand to evade. He expects a turbulent storm of need, but he is met with an ocean of calm. His defense mechanisms become entirely useless. His heavy walls have nothing to keep out. In this profound silence, his nervous system finally relaxes. For the first time, he feels truly safe to exist without performing. To understand the absolute depth of this attraction, we must turn to the analytical work of Carl Jung. Jung spoke extensively of the anima. The anima is the unconscious feminine inner figure residing within the masculine psyche. It represents a man's emotional depth, his intuition, and his capacity for profound spiritual connection. Often, an unintegrated man is completely disconnected from this part of himself. He orphans his own depth. Because he cannot access it within, he projects this anima onto the women he meets. He looks for a woman to carry his emotional weight for him. He unconsciously seeks a mother. He seeks a savior. He seeks an external emotional regulator so he does not have to do the heavy lifting of his own soul. But the Sigma woman refuses to carry this projection. She is too grounded in her own sovereign reality to play a supporting role in his illusion. She refuses to be his emotional crutch. She will not do his inner spiritual work for him. Instead of absorbing his projection, she simply holds up a mirror. Because she is psychologically whole, she reflects back to him the exact pieces of his own soul that he has abandoned. She shows him his own unintegrated depth. She shows him his own orphaned light. This is where shadow activation occurs. By simply standing in her sovereign energy, she calls his shadow to the surface. His unintegrated depth is forced into the light of conscious awareness. This process is deeply uncomfortable for the unawakened masculine. It is terrifying to finally see oneself clearly without any distortions. He may try to run from the reflection. He may try to retreat into his familiar patterns of avoidance. But the gravity of the Sigma woman is relentless precisely because it is not a pursuit. He is drawn to her not because she is chasing him, but because she is standing perfectly still. In her silent, uncompromising power, he is finally forced to meet himself. He cannot manipulate her with distance. He cannot outrun her because she is not moving. She is simply standing in her truth. She presents him with a silent, energetic ultimatum. He must either rise to her level of psychological maturity, or he must walk away and live with the haunting memory of the woman who truly saw his soul. And the mature divine masculine, once awakened to this frequency, cannot walk away from his own soul. He surrenders not to her demands, but to the undeniable, magnetic truth of his own reflection. When the unawakened counterpart pulls away, the immediate reaction is almost always panic. The ego screams that something has gone terribly wrong. You review every word spoken. You analyze every subtle shift in their tone. You convince yourself that his sudden retreat is a direct reflection of your inadequacy. This is the grand illusion of the anxious heart. We are deeply conditioned to believe that distance is a punishment. We view separation as a definitive failure of the connection. But here is the paradigm shift that will fundamentally reorganize how you perceive this entire dynamic. This distance is not a failure. It is not a cosmic punishment. It is the exact, precise mechanical requirement for your mutual expansion. Think of a deeply tangled thread. When you encounter a knot, your first human instinct is often to pull. You panic at the sight of the mess. You pull frantically at both ends, hoping to force the thread straight through sheer willpower. But the physics of the knot dictate that pulling only tightens the bind. The harder you try to force a resolution, the more dense and impenetrable the blockage becomes. Your anxious effort actually creates the exact resistance you are trying to eliminate. But what happens when you simply drop the thread? What happens when you release the tension entirely? Without the force of your anxiety pulling against it, the knot loses its structural integrity. It begins to loosen. It begins to untangle naturally on its own timeline, governed by its own natural physics. The silence you are experiencing right now is exactly like dropping that thread. It feels like a terrifying void, but it is not empty. It is a highly active, deeply necessary recalibration chamber. When you embody the energy of the Sigma woman, your profound stillness carries an immense psychological voltage. It is a frequency of absolute truth that the unintegrated masculine is simply not used to holding. His nervous system becomes overwhelmed by the sheer authenticity of your presence. He does not retreat because he does not care. He retreats because his system is desperately attempting to process the immense weight of what you have mirrored back to him. He needs vast spatial geometry to integrate his own shadow. The Sigma woman understands this on a cellular level. She does not interpret his absence as a loss of her inherent worth. She does not internalize his retreat as a rejection of her soul. Instead, she recognizes it as a vital spiritual necessity. She sees that he requires the crucible of isolation to face the parts of himself he has been running from his entire life. You are not losing him in this silence. You are giving him the absolute privilege of experiencing his own void. You are allowing him the dignity to fight his own internal battles without stepping in to mother him or save him. This is the highest form of spiritual respect. You are trusting his soul to navigate its own dark night. The agonizing pain you feel in the gap between you is not actually the pain of losing him. It is the sensation of your own ego dissolving. The ego demands control. The ego demands constant, tangible reassurance. It wants to manage the narrative to ensure its own emotional safety. When you are forced to surrender that control, the ego interprets the surrender as death. But this dissolution is exactly what you prayed for when you asked for a higher love. You are shedding the heavy, restrictive armor of the anxious heart. You are learning that your true power has always lived in the open hand. It has never lived in the clenched fist. Clinging is the frequency of fear. Releasing is the frequency of absolute mastery. When you stop trying to control the narrative, a profound shift occurs in the quantum field. You stop flooding the connection with the static noise of your anxiety. You step out of the exhausting, frantic role of the pursuer. You elevate into the majestic archetype of the holder of space. The holder of space does not wait in agony. Waiting implies that your life is on pause until someone else returns to press play. Waiting is a state of suspended animation. The Sigma woman does not wait. She lives. She anchors so deeply into her own sovereign existence that the connection becomes a beautiful addition to her life, rather than the desperate center of it. By choosing to live fully in his absence, you change the gravitational pull of the entire dynamic. You allow the universe to weave a much more sophisticated tapestry than your ego could have ever designed. You give the knot the space it needs to breathe, and in that spaciousness, the unawakened counterpart is finally free to move toward you. He does not move out of obligation. He does not move out of guilt or pressure. He moves toward you because the tension is gone. He moves toward you because your open, unbothered stillness has become the most magnetic force in his universe. How do we actually embody this profound architecture? Understanding the theory of the Sigma woman is only the first step of the journey. The mind can easily grasp the concept of stillness, but the human body often rebels against it. The nervous system is addicted to the familiar chaos of pursuit. So how do we transition from the exhausting loop of chasing into the silent power of this archetype? We must move from intellectual understanding to somatic integration. This requires disciplined conscious action. It requires a fundamental rewiring of your internal mechanics. Here are 3 specific internal shifts you can anchor into your reality today to completely change the gravitational field of your connection. The first shift requires you to relinquish the strategy of absence. Many individuals play the game of no contact as a covert strategy. They pull away physically to create a reaction. They withdraw their presence, but their psychic energy is still leaning entirely forward. They are obsessively checking digital spaces. They are waiting in the dark to see if he notices their absence. They are counting the days of silence like a currency they can trade for his affection. This is not detachment. This is loud, desperate energy dressed up as silence. The avoidant soul can feel this invisible tether across any distance. They know you are still waiting. They feel the heavy expectation hanging in the quantum field. The true Sigma woman does not use silence as a manipulation tactic. She does not withhold her energy to punish or to provoke a chase. She goes silent because she's genuinely occupied with the masterpiece of her own life. She withdraws her energy from the dynamic because she is pouring it entirely into her own expansion. You must shift your internal dial. You must move from the thought that you are ignoring him to make him miss you. You must arrive at a place where you are so fascinated by your own existence that you have simply forgotten to look back. True absence has no hidden agenda. It is the pure, unbothered focus on your own beautiful reality. The second shift is learning to anchor the somatic center. When the urge to seek validation arises, it is rarely a logical thought. It is a biological emergency. When you feel the desperate, visceral need to check a status, to send a message, or to fix the connection, notice your physical body. The anxiety does not live in your mind. It lives in your tissue. It is usually a shallow, frantic fluttering in the chest. It is a sudden tightness in the throat. It is a rushing spike of cortisol flooding your veins. Your nervous system is mistakenly telling you that you are unsafe without his validation. Do not act on this biological panic. Do not let the trauma response dictate your physical movements. Instead, you must learn to sit with it. You must become the calm observer of your own internal storm. Breathe deeply into the base of your spine. Imagine a heavy anchor dropping from your root into the center of the earth. Regulate your own nervous system. When you become a sanctuary of emotional safety for yourself, everything in your external reality changes. You naturally become a magnetic field for mature energy. You stop broadcasting the frantic static of panic. You start broadcasting the deep, resonant frequency of peace. The mature masculine is inexplicably drawn to a woman who can anchor her own storm without asking him to save her. The third and final shift is to reclaim the projection. You must stop seeing the unawakened counterpart as the source of your wholeness. We often look at the person we love and believe they possess the magic we are missing. We think they hold the key to our spiritual awakening or our emotional fulfillment. But the profound, overwhelming love you feel for this person is actually a reflection of your own immense capacity to love. You are projecting your own divine nature onto them. You are taking your own brilliant light and draping it over their shoulders, mistaking their silhouette for the sun. Take that blinding golden light back, strip the projection away from the human being standing in front of you. Realize that the breathtaking depth you see in them is actually the depth that already exists within you. You are the source of the magic you feel. You are the origin of the profound love you are experiencing. When you reclaim this projection, you stop being a beggar at the door of your own temple. You realize you are the temple itself. You no longer need him to complete your spiritual circuit because you are already whole. And ironically, it is only when you no longer need him to complete you that he can finally step forward to meet you as an equal. The divine masculine cannot resist a Sigma woman because she represents the rarest phenomenon in the modern emotional landscape. She is a woman who is entirely, unapologetically her own. She does not ask to be chosen. She has already chosen herself. When you finally relinquish the need to solve the puzzle of this connection, you become the gravity that organizes the entire field. You stop being a fragmented half looking for a savior, and you become a sun. And planets do not need to be convinced, manipulated, or coerced into orbiting a sun. They are compelled by the very laws of nature. Step into your gravity. Let the tangled threads unravel. Let the mirror do its silent work.